Good afternoon. I'm Dawn Ireland. I am president and founder of CDH International, and we have a lot to go over this afternoon. I am really excited to talk to you all about competition between charities and collaboration between charities, and I'm going to share a lot of stories, so a lot of shocking stories, honestly, but I'm also going to give you ways that you can work together with other organizations to collaborate and build your communities and to help patients and to achieve research faster with less resources. So, collaboration is always best for all the families and the patients. So let's get started.
Collaboration versus competition is incredibly important when it comes to grants, donations, attention for our individual organizations, sponsorships, research, and our patients.
I committed to do this video. I thought I would just make it simple. Just do the slides, the basics, and let everyone fill in the blanks according to the experiences you've had with competition or collaboration, and then see how we can go from there. Push you to please fill out the survey for RAM and help us to confront the problem, because until we can confront and accept the fact that there is a problem with competition in the rare disease and disease space, that we're never going to fix the problem. And until we fix this problem, we are going to lose so much research, so many patients, and it's that unseen, unheard thing. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Don't talk about it, don't discuss it. If anyone brings up an issue with you about another charity competing, just don't respond. Say, wow, that's bad. Or don't return phone calls, or don't answer, and blacklist anyone who speaks up. So I have had that happen to me a few times. And I honestly, when Eden and Jeff invited me to speak, I was honored. I always am. I love working with them. They're an incredible couple. They do so much in the rare disease space. I just respect them so much. And this is not my first time at this event. So I was excited to come back. And I thought it was a 10-minute speech. They probably told me it was an hour, but in my head, all of this time, about 10 minutes. I actually spent last night trying to pare down from 12 minutes. And then I go to the agenda on the site today because I wanted to put up a link for the survey that we're doing at Earth RAM. And I see it's an hour. Before I begin to share things that I've never shared in public like this before, I want to just note a few things. One, I'm a rare disease patient myself now. I'm a COVID long hauler. I have cognitive issues. Speaking live for me is still a struggle, so I record everything. And even though I record everything, sometimes I forget words, sometimes I stumble, sometimes I stutter. It is not my norm. Thank you, COVID. So you're going to see me struggle a little bit, and I'm fine. Just bear with me. Usually I'm much more professional than this, but it is what it is, and you all understand because you're in this realm. You understand. So I am going to share with you some experiences that I have had in running a nonprofit. And I am going to disclaimer this up front by saying these are my personal experiences from my personal view. And this is my reality for many years, dealing with a lot of these things. And I have tried to speak up many times. I have been quieted down by either, my board, past boards, this board's great, or other groups asked me not to say anything, or researchers asked me not to say anything. And so it's kind of been, it reminds me of elementary school, middle school. I don't know about you, but I was picked on terribly. I've been 5'9" since I was 11 years old with curves. That is traumatizing in middle school. And I have a big mouth and no filter. So when I was bullied in middle school, I was not the roll over, be quiet type, which probably would have been to my benefit. I was the fight back because it's not like I could shrink being built like an Amazon in the 6th grade. So I've always been kind of loud, and I've kind of just tackled things head on. I have a very strong sense of right and wrong, and I always stand up for the little dog. I always run my mouth. I always try to correct, things that I see is wrong or bad, not in a completely judgy way. Sometimes I am judgy, but in a, this isn't right. People are getting hurt. We need to fix this kind of attitude. That's just my personality. So when I signed up to be a patient leader, a patient advocacy leader, I didn't even know what that was. I was the mom of a sick kid at home on life support, ventilator, oxygen, feeding tube. He was 2 years old when I started the charity. There was no internet. There was nothing. There was no help. I only knew one other CDH mom. And I just wanted to help other families. I didn't want them to be alone. I didn't know that there was so many rules and politics and egos and drama behind the scenes. I just wanted to help the families. 26 years later, I still just want to help the families. I want to help these patients. And I will very often question myself, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why don't I get a normal job where I don't have to deal with dramas or being in the public, limelight, or being attacked in social media and competition? And it is stressful. It is so incredibly stressful. And it is not at all what I signed up for, and not at all what anything should be about, but it is. And, people are people, and they're going to be good people. They're going to be bad people. They're going to be confused people. There's a quote, and I can't remember who said it, and I apologize. If I remember, I'll put it in the chat, that haters are confused supporters. And I firmly believe that. That if people understood your side and what you've been through and your view of why you said what you did, why what you did, that they would go, oh, okay, that's great. Good work. Great job. Thank you. But we live in a society where everything is 2 seconds of attention. And so you draw conclusions, and it's just, we're getting attacked nonstop by news and politics and social media and all different sides. And how many platforms are there now? Because I can't even keep up. It's exhausting. So we're just constantly getting fed all this information, and people make assumptions and they make judgments so quickly that it's hard for a lot of people to not assume the worst. It's hard for a lot of people not to sit back and pick other people apart. And when you are the leader of a charity, especially a disease charity, you're a target. You just are. That's just a fact. Most of us know it. Unless you have a very, very small community for your disease and everyone loves everyone. Now, just wait till a couple of years from now and you have more people. You are going to get picked apart. There's always going to be egos, people who think they can do better, people who want attention. It's always going to be a desperation that patients or parents or other family members have to get their patient treatment and saved, and they will step on you no matter what it takes. Their kid will get fixed. They are going to go into martyr mode, and you're just a speed bump along the way, a complete non-person. And sadly, that is an experience that many of us have had and very few talk about. So I'm going to talk about it now. I'm going to share some of my experiences, and good, the bad, the ugly, and the really destructive. And I know I'm not the only one, because I hear the stories, because people know that I'm working on this RAM survey, or people come up to me and they talk to me and they go, I'm having this issue, or have you ever done this? And I mentor several other charity leaders, and I am pretty active in the rare disease world now. I'm new, but I'm pretty active. And I work with lots of alliances. And so I have a lot of people coming up to me asking me for advice. And I know these things are happening out there. People just aren't talking about them. And they're scared because there's usually retribution for saying something. And I fully know that. I know that I am putting myself right in front of the firing squad by doing this video. But someone has to do it. Someone has to say these things. Someone has to share these experiences. And I hope by sharing my experiences that other leaders will know that they are not alone. that you can go, oh yeah, that happened to me too, or oh no, I didn't know that was a possibility. I need to take precautions to make sure that that does not happen. And so here I go. All right, so I want to give you a little bit of back history on CDH. I'm going to talk about my experience with the CDH community because that's the only experience I have hands-on, right? I am not going to badmouth anyone. I'm not going to say any names of people or other organizations or groups. That's not the point. I am not here to crucify anyone. Like I just said, haters are just confused supporters. And I know for 90% of these people or groups, their intentions were good, even if their actions were bad. Does that make sense? I know they want to help, and they want to help their kids and other kids, but the way they go about it was not so upright. Doesn't make them bad people. It means, I don't know what it means, but I'm not here to blast anyone or hurt anyone. I'm just here to share experiences so that you all know you're not alone and that we need to speak up and tackle this problem because it's going to keep happening until we talk about it. And we are not going to get the research we need. We're not going to get the awareness we need for any of these patients if we are battling each other behind the scenes. So here I am with my big mouth, like I'm 11 years old again. So bear with me and know that my heart's in the right place doing this. And I hope that everyone learns from my experiences and my mistakes, because I'm definitely not perfect. I have a very large mouth and short temper sometimes, especially not short temper, a very low intolerance for injustice and mean people. So, okay. So a little bit of back history on the charity. So we were started in '95, and it was myself and another mom on my kitchen table, and I was 22 years old, and she had lost her son. He never came home from the hospital. My son was 2 at the time. Still, he was stable, but he was still very disabled. And I had no idea what I was doing. There was no internet. There was no Google. There was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. And I, you know, that whole justice warrior thing in me, I did not want other families going through that alone. I did not. And so I went out on a quest to help other families, and I started writing letters to hospitals and big organizations like Contact a Family or the Birth Defects Association, which I'm not sure their new name, but that's what they were in Florida back then in '95. And I was writing to them, can you please connect me with other CDH families? And soon we had about 20 families after the first year, I believe. And we were so close-knit so fast. I mean, we write each other Christmas cards and birthday cards and letters and how are you doing? And we would have everybody's phone numbers. And it was not a big thing for us to just pass around sheets with everyone's contact information, not think twice about it. And we were so supportive of each other, the grieving families and survivor families, and how could we work together, and it was amazing. I knew every kid's birthday and angel day by heart. I knew every family's address and phone number by heart. Those were the days when we were just so grateful to find someone else who understood what we were going through, and it was nothing but love and kindness and support, and it was amazing. And then the internet came along, about 97, 98, the internet came along, and it became this huge patients everywhere. You know, we need a website, we need a logo, we need a way for families to communicate. What the heck is an email list? And what is this AOL Messenger thing? And then all of a sudden, the families were talking 24/7. Within the first year or two of our website and our chat room, we had several hundred families. And they were talking all the time. I would be up 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning some mornings talking to a distraught family whose child was just diagnosed or was in the hospital, or they just needed an ear, or they were lonely because they were stuck at home all the time. And so I understood, because I was too. I had a sick kid as well. And I was young. I could stay up and work 36 hours straight then. So that's how we were. And it was so supportive and amazing and wonderful. And to our knowledge at the time, we were the only CDH charity there was. There was no competition. Nobody wanted to compete. Everybody just wanted to come together, and it was great. And then once we had a website, we found out that there was a Dutch group that was a year older than ours. And my attitude and the founder of that charity's attitude was, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. And immediately we became good friends. And I don't speak Dutch, so I couldn't join his group because I would not understand a word they said. But he spoke fluent English, so he immediately became a part of our group. Did it ever occur to me that he would poach members or contact our donors? Ever, ever. And he never did, because he was a good man. And all he wanted was the same thing that we wanted, which was to bring families together and push research and find out what caused congenital diaphragmatic hernia and the best ways to treat it. So we all had the same motives, and it was amazing. We had chat rooms every Tuesday night. We would all come together. There would be dozens of us, sometimes 100, in the later years. And then we had email lists, and you'd email for you young, an email list, a listserv, is when you have all these people on a mailing list and you send one email out and it goes to everybody. And it's not, where you CC 4,000 people, it just goes to the service. And so we started this list. And then we had families from Australia and the UK and all of these other countries that came in. And so pretty soon we had several hundred. And there were days there would be 50, 60 messages flying back on this listserv because there was no social media at the time. And so we were one big family. In 99, my son died unexpectedly. He was 6.5 years old. My CDH family was just this blanket of comfort to me. I am so grateful that I had the support of such a amazing, united community when my son was alive and when he died. I do not know how anyone can go through that on social media with all the trolls and the hate and all that. God bless you. I couldn't do it. I'm amazed at this new generation of patients and families who have to tackle social media. It has great points. There are lots of good people and resources on social media, but it has a downside too. And I know that at that particular time in my life, that's not what I wanted or needed. I needed support and understanding, and the CDH community was incredible. About the same time, there was a new person in our organization who lost her child within a few months that I lost mine. And her child was just days, weeks old, never left the hospital. So our experiences were similar but different. The time frame of the grief was the same, and she was part of our family, and we all got along. And then, sometimes when you deal with such highly emotional issue as a rare disease, and you have some patients who survive and some patients who don't survive, you're going to deal with a very, very small percentage who do not handle grief well and who do not react to other families well. And, about that same time, we started having a few people here and there who would be a little aggressive, a little resentful. And being a grieving mom myself, I would immediately try to squelch that and help that person and make excuses for it. Go, guys, just have patience. This is hard. It's hard hearing updates on survivors and how they're making these great milestones when your child just died. As a grieving mom, I can tell you, it is still hard for me. And my son died 26 years ago. No, 26 years ago. 23 years ago this year. So it's been interesting seeing how different people handle stress and grief, and not only the grief of losing a child, but the grief of losing the idea of a healthy child too. So everyone reacts differently. And when you have all of these patients in one place, and they're all dealing with these really traumatizing times and these emotions, and they don't know how to deal with it, and they're trying to understand the disease itself, and they're reaching out for help and trying to save their kid, or they're trying to grieve and they're trying to keep their families together and their marriages together. And it's supercharged. It's a supercharged emotional environment, and there's always going to be someone who blows. And it's just how it is. And it's not fair and it's not right. And often other patients and families can be the targets. And I'm not excusing the behavior at all, but I'm saying I can understand it. I can understand why someone would feel that way, because we all feel that way, whether we react or not. Most of us just know to be kind to others. And so that tends to happen. And so, and around 2001, I also lost my sister. Not around, in 2001, I also lost my sister. So I lost my son, my sister, and my grandfather within a 2-year period, and my marriage fell apart. And I was working a full-time job, trying to run the charity, trying to help my sister's kids. My sister was diagnosed with rhabdomyosarcoma, another rare disease, and she struggled for 2 years. She was diagnosed 6 months after Shane died, and then the doctors told her there was no chance, there was no hope, there was no survival rate for this, and they gave her 2 years, and she lived for 2 years. But she was a single mom, and she had a 6-month-old, and a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, and she needed help. So I was juggling all of these different things, and the internet got bigger and bigger at this time. Social media started to come around. MySpace was a thing, chat rooms, Facebook was not yet there, but it was a couple of years down the road. And so everything was changing. The entire world was changing. My entire world was changing. And it was bam, 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 just one awful thing after another. And during this time, some of the members stepped up, some of the volunteers stepped up to help, but I wasn't giving 100%. And I'm completely honest, I didn't have 100% to give, And so it was during this time that this one person took it upon herself to decide that I was not deserving of the position of running the charity, that I did not know what I was doing. She'd had work experience in nonprofits. She was a little bit older, therefore she knew everything. She was more educated than me. It was this long list of things where she was greater than me, according to her. And so while I was at my lowest, she started chipping away the charity. Started going, let's start our own thing. We don't need Dawn. And instead of helping to keep the charity going and building it up and pushing things forward when I needed help the most, just like, no, I'm doing my own thing. And so it began this campaign of fake accounts in our listserv and then attacking other families. And then we would find out who it was. And so we kicked her out of the listserv, and it was like after 5 or 6 warnings to not argue with families, and then it was the fake accounts, and we really tried. And so when she got kicked out of our charity, it was game on, all out war, and I was Satan himself. So it was lots of slander, lots of libel, lots of making up awful things about me that were not remotely true to try to get families to no longer respect me, want to associate with me, want to associate with a charity. And it was horrific things. It was things like accusing me of cheating on my husband, accusing me of stealing from the charity, all sorts of incredibly horrific things that had no validity at all, because that was all she had to create her charity, was to steal members from ours. And the only way to steal members from ours, because these were families whose hands I held when their children were dying. These are the families whose phone calls I took at 2 o'clock in the morning while I'm trying to hook up my son's feeds. These were families that I had really given my heart and my soul to, and they were pretty loyal to the charity because they loved the community that we had, and they respected me because I cared about them. So the only way she could chip at that was to attack me personally, and it got really bad. And in the middle of all of this, we had 9/11. And our secretary at the charity, who was my right hand, who took over temporarily after my son died, and she's amazing, amazing person, was in the Pentagon during 9/11. And she survived, but she immediately started having health issues, and still to this day is very disabled because of 9/11, and she had to back away. So it was just this perfect storm. It really was a perfect storm for a person with bad motives to come in. And so, side note, advice to all of you, have a backup plan at all times. Have great hierarchy of people who can step in and help, so that there's never a lull that anyone can just jump in and just try to destroy everything that you created for the patient community. So Anyway, this other person started their own charity and started pulling people from our charity and making families feel like they had to choose between one or the other. The slander continued. There was an entire blog dedicated to how awful a person I am. There was all sorts of fake accounts on social media. Facebook came along, and that was fun. So then it just became an onslaught all the time. And then it created this division of other people who wanted to help the community and who, when we were all together, would have been incredible volunteers and would have boosted everyone up, where they decided, I don't want to be a part of either one of these charities. There's too much conflict. There's too much competition. I just want something positive. My child is sick. My child just died. I don't want anything to do with either one of you. And that was awful. The families were put in that position. So then they would start new charities. So now we had not only two charities, we had all these little charities popping up. And these little charities seem to be picking sides too. And then we had just like these little groups of people who were trolling other charities, who had fake accounts on social media, who were sending anonymous emails, who were filing false reports with the IRS against charities, who were calling charity leaders workplaces. It was awful. I never knew people could be that creative and being so mean. And so it was really, really bad. And in 2002, I believe, getting my years wrong, it got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore. And so I started consulting lawyers, to get a restraining order against this woman. And a couple of years later, I actually did get a restraining order against this woman. And though the judge thought, wow, this is awful, the judge was an older gentleman in the South, in a small town, who had never been on the internet. And he thought sticks and stones and did not realize the tort issues that this was causing our charity. This drama and the slander was costing us members, donors, sponsorship, events, research initiatives, everything. So it was bad. It was the same person would, when we were in contests for charities for money, this person would contact the contest admins and slander us to try to get us kicked out of contests. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But the amount of money that we lost, some of these contests, we were in the top 3 places. And she just did not want our charity to make any money to help the patients. It had to be her charity and only her charity. And it didn't matter if patients were losing $100,000 in research. Did not matter. It was not going to come to our charity. She was going to make darn sure of that. And so it was not about the patients and getting them help. It was about competition, ego. So it kind of culminated when the same person decided to trademark congenital diaphragmatic hernia awareness. So that every time we said congenital diaphragmatic hernia awareness, we were threatened to be sued. And no other charity could say it. And it was awful. It was just, and she had her reasons that she didn't want it to be pink washed like breast cancer awareness. She wanted to control everything so that it was all up to her standards. And it never occurred to her that she didn't own it, that she wasn't the first to say it. She wasn't the first patient. She wasn't the first charity leader, that it belonged to all of us. And so that kind of rallied almost everyone to come together and go, wait, this is wrong. Okay, enough of this. We're all going to get together and we're going to fight this. And we did. And 2 years later, it was removed. And so CDH Awareness Day now is actually the day that trademark was removed and that CDH awareness belongs to everyone. But why put the community through that? All of that drama and hate and competition and jealousy and loss of time and money and research for our kids and lives lost, when we could be pushing research so much farther by now if we had all stayed that one loving community. The CDH community never fully recovered from that. No matter how many times and ways we've tried to bring the community back together, there are just too many players, too many charities, too many egos, too many people who want their own thing, that we'll never be one community again like that, one under one wing, where everyone's together. And we have 6,500 families in our charity now, so we're too big and too much damage has been done. And I will always wonder how much farther we would be if everyone worked together. And I will always be angry that the newer families didn't have the love and support that the families in the first few years had because of competition. And that's not right. And so here we are. We've had more than one bad egg in the CDH community. So I want to talk about a few other experiences. Okay, so we've had problems with embezzlement. We've had people who've had fundraisers and then they don't give the money that they raise to our charity. They decide to start their own. We've had that happen twice with funds and goods that they've collected and just decided, oh no, it's all for CDH, I'm just gonna start my own. And we could have pressed charges, but it wasn't enough money to have to hire a lawyer and go through with all that. Though now I wish we had. I wish we'd just hand it to the police and let them deal with it. And I've been a bad guy. But it was wrong. You know, they stole from our charity. And then they build their reputations up in the community and try to get respect. And we kept quiet, so no one knows how they got started. You know, the awful thing they did to our charity, they stepped on one charity to start another. That is the wrong attitude. That is never how a charity should be started. But it was twice in our history that's happened. And nothing good came from it either time. So, yeah, their big dreams of being a leader and helping just evaporated. And that charity that did the trademark and the stalking and all the other stuff, no longer in existence. All of that for nothing. They didn't stop CDH. They didn't, you know, help thousands of families. They didn't do all the big things that they said they were going to do. It was just destruction and then gone. So it was literally all for nothing. Let's talk about something else. Let's see, we've had a lot of volunteers who have learned the behind the scenes and then gone off to start something else on their own, and not in a nice way. Kind of taken advantage of the charity and then gone off. And so now we make everybody sign, you know, non-competes and privacy, you know, statements, all sorts of things, because you really can't trust anybody anymore. It's awful. You hope that people volunteer for the right motives, but not everyone does. And so because of that small percentage, and it's a small percentage, we've had hundreds of amazing volunteers over the years, and I don't want it to make it sound like we haven't. It's just always a few bad eggs that everyone else has to deal with. And so we've had volunteers who have gotten really nasty. And we've had volunteers who just come in and they don't do their job. They don't do anything. They don't respond to emails. They don't get the projects done. The leaders are going, have you done this? We haven't heard from you. Are you there? Are you there? Or you can see them in conversations reading everything and lurking and then not talking, not contributing, not being responsible for the task that they were assigned, the task that they volunteered to do. So, and then when we have to remove them, they get mean. Like, you know, they're just awful. I volunteered and they treated me awful. We didn't treat you awful. You volunteered and then you disappeared. You ghosted a charity. That's not cool. And so, and then we just distance ourselves from them because we never know publicly how they're going to behave because they ghosted a charity. So we have those issues, to the point where I made a flyer and go, this is not how you volunteer. Happy to share that too. You don't ghost, you don't badmouth, you respond to emails, just participate. The babies are counting on all of us. Please don't ghost these babies. We still deal with that quite a bit. And then we've had volunteers who we've helped start other organizations in other countries, like willingly, here's our members, here's the data, you know, please use our registry, here's all of our materials, here's all my contacts in your country, please, you know, you have our full blessing, use our name and our logo in your country. I don't know how much more supportive we could have been. I mean, really, unless I flew over there and did the work for them, I don't know how much more support we could have been. And this is when we were also a big community, so we trusted everyone. We're like, yes, the families in that country need more help. they could benefit for having nonprofit status there. And then you can collect things to do care packages for those families that we can't do here because the shipping cost is just too outrageous. Absolutely, whatever the families need, let's do it, let's do it. And that was our attitude. And that's still mostly our attitude. But there are always a couple of people who take advantage of that. When the trademark thing went down and that woman was bad-mouthing us to the countries that we helped get started, on it with her and attacked me personally. Charities that we helped start. Charities that I gave awards to in person when they came to our events in the US. People that I called friends, people that I would talk to, and I cried for their children. And personally, it hurts, you know, it hurts when you consider people friends. And so, and it took me many years, like over 20 years, to realize that when you're the leader of a charity, you're not anyone's friends. This is your job. It has to be your job. You have to distance yourself or you're going to get hurt. So you have to keep it professional. And it's very hard for me still, as you can tell. So those two other charities overseas, one of them got a new leader, a new person in their leadership. And she wasn't around when we were all together. She wasn't around when they got an award. She wasn't around when they, you know, got their NGO status with our name and our logo and everything. She wasn't around. And so she just kind of came into the community, and she decided, because she was friends with the trademark person, that I was the devil. And that their charity never worked with us. Complete rewrite of history. Their charity never worked with us, never had our name or logo. Never lowered themselves to work with us. We never helped them. The founders were never volunteers for our charity. None of it ever existed. Don't you dare use photos from past events where we were included. Don't you dare reprint newsletters where we were included, where you can actually see how this other charity got started. I mean, it has been so bad that 4 years ago, they posted all over social media that they were celebrating their 10th anniversary. 4 years ago. Our charity turned 25 last year. Last year, they were celebrating their 25th anniversary. 16 years, just, I mean, you can see when they registered. You can see the photos. You can see the leaders on our old forums, in our old listserv archives, in our newsletters. You can see the dates. You can literally go to the commission for that country, look up the date they're registered, or you can go to waybacktimemachine.com and they archive every website. And you can see their website with our name, thanking us. But she is just out to rebrand them and crucify us to the point where she has bashed us to so many researchers in Europe that I get phone calls from doctors going, hey, Dawn, doctors I've worked with for 20 years, and my friends with, hey, Dawn, did you know that this person is saying X, Y, and Z about you? Doctors, researchers. I've had researchers just walk away from me as I started talking to them. I've had this woman attack me in the middle of a medical conference, screaming at me that she was going to do her job and I was awful and she watched her grandchild die from CDH, and how dare I question her or anything, when this was me coming up to her and I said going, hey, can we just sit down and talk and try to work together so that there's no animosity? Because we used to, you know, me trying to put out the olive branch for the 50th time and literally screaming at me in the middle of a medical conference, looking at me with no empathy whatsoever that I am a mom of a child who was 6.5 years old when he died in my arms, because her grief is all that mattered. Not me, not all the patients, not all the charities, not the research, her grief. And the nastiness and the slander and the libel has caused us to have to hire solicitors in that country to deal with it. So it didn't have to be like that. You know, why do people have to be nasty and competitive? Why can't you just go, hey, I want to do this. I want to do this project. Can I do it under your charity? Or I want to start my own charity. And what do you think? How can we work together? Because we have the people who do that and we work together and it's wonderful. I have sat down with lunches and dinners and coffees when I travel with people who want to start CDH charities. and we're friends and we get along, and we go to conferences like CDH conferences, and we'll all rent an Airbnb together to save money because we're friends and we respect each other, and we don't want to compete. We want to help these kids, and not everybody can do that. Like one organization, one person can't save all the kids. They can't do everything, and that's not just for CDH, that's for everybody. If you don't all work together within one charity to have one cohesive community, and you have other organizations, still be cohesive, still work together. Everyone offer a different piece of the puzzle so that everything works better. And so that's why we created the Alliance of Congenital Diaphragmatic Hernia Organizations when that trademark issue came about. And now we have over 30 CDH charities, and all but a very few work together. We've had organizations that refer families to doctors. These organizations are not made of doctors themselves. They're parents of a patient who had a good outcome. So they started pulling money to fund this doctor and start an organization specifically for this particular hospital to bring in patients. And their marketing campaign has been pretty much, if you don't go to this doctor, your child won't survive. Or this is the only doctor that can take care of your child. And if you don't go to this doctor to have your child who can give your child the best care, then therefore you're a bad parent. And if you didn't go to this doctor and your child died, then you're an awful parent and your child's death is your fault. That's been said by the group that supports this organization to other families. And it's gotten awful. Who says that? Who does that to grieving parents or other parents? So our organization is over here. There's lots of great hospitals that treat CDH. There's lots of amazing organizations and amazing doctors, and there are hospitals that are closer to you. There's a hospital in your state. You can, not lose your job, not have to take your other children across the country or across an ocean to get care. Like, you have all of these options, and they're amazing, and these doctors are doing wonderful. So the biggest issue in the CDH community is that we don't have a standard measurement of mortality and morbidity. We don't have one measurement that says your survival rate is X because of Y and Z. We don't have that. So because we don't have that in the US, some countries do, because we don't have that in the US, all the hospitals just make up their own criteria for survival rate. Some of them don't count kids who have, genetic diseases or other defects, who didn't survive surgery, who didn't survive transport, who survived, but then they died after they went home, or they survived within 2 weeks after surgery. So when they died in the third week from an infection, they don't count. They don't count the families that they turn away because their kid has a lot of issues and it's not good for survival rates. So there's a lot of behind the scenes competition between the hospitals for these patients. The CDH patients in the NICU bring in more money than any other patient. These are $1 million babies. So that's a lot of money for a hospital, right? And I'm not saying all hospitals are like this. They're not. And I'm not saying the doctors or nurses are like that. They're not. But there is some competition, and because no one really has the answer to fix these kids, there's some healthy competition amongst the doctors on who can figure out these kids first. We love that. Keep that competition up. That's the kind of competition that's good. But the competition for patients and the competition that is created within charities because of this attitude is awful. It's just awful. It's and then when our charity stands up and says, this is not right, this is not true, these are not the facts, this is how CDH is, these are the overall survival rates, that one hospital can't tell you this when there's no measurement to know what this is, and know your options. So our organization gives the families as much information as possible so they can make the best educated choices for their children with no partiality to any particular hospital, doctor, treatment, etc. That's what professional organizations do, right? That's what responsible organizations do. It's not what everyone does. And it's not just CDH. I've seen other diseases have the same issue. And you can go, well, Dawn, this one hospital has this treatment that the other hospitals don't. That's great. Tell the families that. But don't pressure them so much that they lose their houses, their jobs, their savings, everything, in hopes that you're right when your data is just your data. is not comparable to anyone else's data. That's not being honest. That's not giving the families all the information they need to make an educated choice. That is trying to persuade families to one particular hospital. So one particular hospital has more patients, so they make more money, and that's marketing that hospital. And that's not honest, and that's not legal, and that happens. And then we've had discussions where, you know, some people want to fund a particular hospital or doctor in order to bring in numbers so that they can create more data, so that they can sell that information, that quick fix, how to, I'm the best, you know, in a box kind of thing, to other hospitals instead of all working together to better help all the patients. And so a charity should not be marketing to bring in more money for an investment to sell a product to help patients live. That's not good. Say, poaching donors. Right now, currently, we have an organization that's not a member of ACDHO that goes and lurks on our Facebook pages to anybody who comments or likes anything. And then she'll go message them and ask them to raise money for her charity, which is also a CDH charity. Frustrating. We have had, let's see, competing projects. CDH families right now get 4 different care packages every time a baby's born from 4 different charities, 4 different marketing things, because they want to get their charity name out there. Why? Why do that except to compete with another charity? Why not take that money and give it as financial assistance or research money that can actually help these families? They don't need 4 tote bags. They don't need 4 t-shirts. They don't need, you know, 4 blank journals. That is just such a waste of resources just to promote themselves. And you can't say that. You can't make people understand that it's such a waste of resources. And it's just, it's not conducive to the community, you know, when you're just kind of going, my stuff's better. Why? It's so childish. It's not what helps these children survive. It's literally nothing to do with stopping CDH. But that's what we have going on right now. And it's been that way for almost 10 years. And it's just marketing. It's marketing and not help. So don't do that. You know, have different services. We have competing awareness days. That one is just, so two of the organization that trademarked CDH awareness also trademarked CDH Awareness Day, and that's been removed as well. And that was the day that their charity started. And so it was a global celebration of them. Not cool. A few people still celebrate that day, you know, some of the older people who are part of that organization. But for the most part, the majority of the world comes together on April 19th. But there are those 2 organizations and those 2 other countries that, you know, kind of just stabbed us in the back a little bit, have their own days and their own colors, their own symbols. And so the rest of the world is raising awareness together as a loud collective voice, but they have their own days. And they don't work on the global day together because they want their own voice. And again, it just seems redundant and splintering to do that instead of giving everybody a loud voice together. So the families in those 2 countries feel like they have to pick a day that is Awareness Day for them, or they try their best to support, you know, everyone and participate in both days. And meanwhile, their family and friends are going, what? Why are you celebrating in October and April, or June and April? What? You know, so it's just, it makes no sense. But people are going to do what they're going to do. And sometimes you just can't get people to cooperate and work together. What else? Preventing research. Oh, here's a good one. So our charity just got NGO status in 5 other countries. 3 of those countries are in Europe. We specifically got NGO status in those 3 countries in Europe so we could be part of the European reference networks, which is an initiative within the EU to help bring together organizations and researchers to gather data, to push accelerated research, and to work together, and also to represent all the members of the EU, right? Sounds like a great idea. Our registry includes over 1,000 families in the EU. So there are other organizations in Europe that we work with in ACDHO and who are phenomenal. The French group, the Spanish group, the Swedish group, the German group, there are really good groups over there, and so they're representing those countries. But there are countries in Europe that we have families in that are not represented. There are countries in Europe that we've actively supported families for 25 years. And so we got NGO status in Europe to be a part of this. One of those countries, the woman who screams at me at medical conferences, she's in one of the ERN groups. And so she's badmouthed us so much and screamed that CDH International is supposed to come to Europe because we want to take over. No, we've been in Europe for 25, 26 years. We don't want to take over anything. And that we're just, brashy Americans, sorry, you can probably hear my dog in here, brashy Americans who want to come over and take charge, because that's what Americans do, which is kind of offensive. We don't want to take charge of everything. We just want to work together with everyone to help. So she's been so nasty and badmouthed us so much that we're not allowed in that ERN. And it's not just us. Other charities who are actually in Europe have kind of been blacklisted from the ERN unless they join her new alliance. Now ACDHO is 12, 14 years old, but she started her new alliance for organizations. And if they're not a part of that, well, she doesn't think she should let them in the ERN because she's that much power and she's that pushy in the ERN. Why? That's literally stopping research for these children. These children that we have vowed to help by starting charities or working at charities, that is literally preventing research. Who does that? Why would you do that? So that's, what we're currently dealing with. I am bitter about that because children are dying, and someone whose job is supposed to help these children is preventing research because competition and ego, period. That's it. Someone who I don't personally even know, someone who was never part of our charity, has no idea how our charity works and what we do for families, who just decided, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the best at this, and I will step on you every way I have to do it. And I don't care about your organization, the families that you help, the volunteers that you have, the work that you've done, the community you've built. I do not care because this is what I want to do. And I will do it by any means necessary. That's where we are. And then one or two more examples. People who start fundraisers who do so on behalf of our charity, but as a bridge to start their own charity, which is fine. If you tell us that, say, hey, I want to start a charity that does this, that you're not doing. So I want to be able to do this. Great, that's a service that's needed. Let's do it. We'll fully support you. And if they go, hey, I want to learn how to do a fundraiser. Can I fundraise for you guys this year? And I'll do it next year for my charity. And can you kind of mentor me and help me out a little bit? Absolutely. Sign me up. What do you need? How can CDH International help you? Let's do this. That is who we are. We will absolutely support anyone who wants to be transparent and honest and help these kids. Absolutely. But if you started our charity and then you get kind of aggressive and you want to meet the researchers, why you're holding a golf tournament. Why do you need to meet the researchers? Well, if we're going to raise money for the researchers, we want introduction. Oh, red light going off. You want introduction because you want to start your own thing, but you don't want to tell us you want to start your own thing. You want to be sneaky about it and kind of pushy. And if we say, wait a minute, no, that's not how we work, you're going to be nasty and then it's going to be our fault because we've been down this road a few dozen times. So we've dealt with that. And they do start their charity. And do they work with us or other charities? They're not members of ACDHO. And they're not transparent about how they got started. They make mistakes. that if they had a mentor who could explain to them, like, hey, that's not how it works. You don't personally get to take tax write-offs for donations that other people make at your fundraiser. They get to take those tax write-offs, not you. We're not cutting you a receipt for that. That's not legal, you know, like explaining things like that. Or it's not good to have married couple on the board with other family members, because that's not a professional board. You have to be completely impartial about voting, and you're not going to be impartial if you're all family members. And paying yourself 50% of the income the first year as your salary is, and then not telling people, is not being transparent. I'm just throwing out examples here. So we've had not only in the CDH community, but I've seen other new charities start other diseases do some crazy things because they didn't know any better, because they didn't ask for help, because they were going to do things their way. Ask for help. There are so many leaders out here who would love to mentor, answer questions, help you so that you don't make mistakes that we make or other people make. Learn from all of our experiences. So ask, find a mentor. There's so many out there. So yeah, and then, you know, when you make mistakes like that and you cause more drama in the community, and that's not good for anyone, especially not you, your charity, your reputation, or the community or the patient. So just be upfront, be truly transparent, and have the conversations, because you'd be surprised at how supportive other organizations would be. Okay, let's see what else. This is one I've heard from a lot of charity leaders outside the CDH community. You work for years, you build up a community, you do the hard work, you volunteered your time, you lost time with your kids, you've given your own resources, you work so hard to build up an organization for 5 years, 10, 20 years, and then along comes somebody with money, a new patient whose family has money or they have money, and they just look at you and go, huh, I can do this. And they start their own organization. And then they throw money at researchers, they throw money at patients, they throw money left and right. And then they decide, well, I need my own support group for my charity. And then families who are now suddenly getting this money, you know, researchers who are now suddenly getting all this money, they're pulling in everyone to them. And so the charity that was there for 20 or 30 years, or 5 or however long, the people that actually did the work to build the communities, to start the research, dust. You know, don't do that. Don't disrespect the community and the efforts that other people made just because you can afford to do so. That's, and the same way when a celebrity gets a diagnosis. How many people know the ALS community before they got celebrities? You know, who are those patients and spouses and moms and dads and kids and friends who worked really, really hard for years before Lou Gehrig came about? Do you know any of their names? No. So did it promote research? Yes. Did it hurt the community? Yes. So, you know, do the right thing. Donate to the existing organization. Help support them. Bring the community together. Don't splinter the community just because you can. And I have seen so many wealthy bored housewives, no offense, I was a housewife for years, and I was when I started my charity, don't get offense, people who need a hobby and they have money, so they just start, I'll start a nonprofit. It's a good status symbol. No, it's not. A patient organization is not a status symbol. It is a vehicle for research and to help patients. It is not a product that, not a product, what's the right word? It is not a badge of honor. It is a service to others, period. Not something to talk about at the country club. It's not. That's not the right motive. That's not, you may think it is because you have a patient and you want to get everyone help. And that is a good motive. But work together. So I think that's everything. As about as honest as I can be. it's just, I watch the CDH community splinter so much, and I resent it so much because the families deserve better. They deserve that close-knit tight community that we had 20, 15 years ago. I wish I could bottle that and give it to every new parent so they feel loved and not pulled in many different directions by charities who want numbers or want attention or what it, because it's not what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about CDH has done this horrible thing to our families and our kids. Horrible. 50% of our children have died. We need to get together to stop CDH. CDH should be the only thing that any of us battle. And it's not. And it's not right. And the best advice I can give a new community, stay together, no matter what. From day one, that the first organization is created for that disease, make a vow that everyone stays together, no matter what. One organization, you can have many leaders, you can have leadership turnover, but everyone stays together. Because researchers will tell you, pharma will tell you, more than one organization creates chaos, and it slows down, it bottlenecks everything. They don't want to have to research the landscape, who has the most patients and who has the data and who's doing this and that. They don't care. They just want to help the patients. And so patients and families do themselves a huge disservice splintering into these little groups. You've lost your power. What you had is one big voice together to make decisions together. So whatever you can do, whether it's merging organizations or building an alliance or mentoring each other, get that community back. Because only then are you ever going to stop anything.
I've had the honor of being part of the Alliance of Congenital Diaphragmatic Hernia organizations. We started out in the not best situation, but look how many of us have come together to work for these patients. A group speaking together is much louder and clearer than many groups trying to speak over top of each other and vying for attention. I would like to show you a visual demonstration on the importance of working together for patients. Each block represents every player in your cause, every patient, every advocate, every charity, every researcher, every hospital, every member of industry. Also, these blocks represent patients' stories, journeys, videos, friendships. Let's call the first one Shane. This is my son. This represents his personal journey, his medical history, the people that he has touched, the awareness his story has raised, and the research that he participated in. Each of you have a block that represents the patients that you love, their journeys, their medical histories, the people that they have touched, the awareness their stories have raised, the research they participate in. Each of you who are patient advocates individually have a block. This represents your work, the research you've initiated, the collaborations you've made, the speeches that you give, the networks that you build, the awareness that you raise, and the lives that you have touched. Researchers also have blocks. Industry has blocks. And charities have blocks. Every service that they provide, every event, every fundraiser, every bit of research that they fund, every bill that they lobby, every video that they create, every conference that they hold, every patient and family that they help, and all the things that they fund. Everyone is represented. No one is less or more important than anyone else. Just as these blocks show, everyone is the same. No one has less or more to give. No one person or entity is worth more than anyone else. A patient advocate who speaks at a conference is no more important than the patients that they speak for. Industry is no more important than charities. Everyone is equal. We all have the same goal. The goal of everyone is to find a cure or best treatments for patients as fast as possible to save lives and create better qualities of life. That should be everyone's goal, right? Let's say that the goal is represented by the top of this ruler. This is what we need to get to save lives. Here is my son's block. It will be used to help everyone. This is my block. I will give my all to help reach that goal as soon as possible. This is my charities block. CDH International will give our all to help reach that goal as soon as possible. But it's not just us. There are others who want to reach that goal too and want to help these patients as soon as possible. Each of these charities offer different services to patients. They have different projects, different funding sources. Often they work together on projects. The researchers do the same. The advocates roll up their sleeves and work to support and promote everyone. There are associations, mentorships, joint research collaboratives, joint events. Everyone works together and everyone brings something to the table. When we all collaborate, we get closer to that goal faster. It doesn't matter who is on top or who is on bottom, because you can see we are all the same size and making the same contributions. And look how far we move when we work together. These other blocks, some may take longer to move over to the stack to help the cause. They will eventually get there and want to collaborate. But then there's CDH Me. They do not like the fact that CDH International started the build. They feel that they are just as important and they have more to offer. They have a bigger budget, a rich benefactor, a bigger staff. They are new to the scene and they believe that they can do more. So they start to build their own stack. They offer the same services as a charity in the collaboration. They offer the same donor approaches. They go to the same donor pools. They repeat the same projects. They do not offer anything original and they compete with work already being done. Then they try to get other players to come help them. This leaves some people in the middle who don't want to pick sides and start to contemplate building their own stacks. The competition can get quite nasty. Money can be thrown around. Slander, libel, stalking, attacking other players in order to convince patients, funders, sponsors to support them. Soon, the initiative to work together has devolved into chaos, competition, and egos. So where does this leave the patients? Farther and farther from the goal. Backwards, in fact. Where some see a commonality, others see competition. It should never be a race among the charities, advocates, patients, or some researchers. Ethically, we should all have the same goal, and the patients will not be saved or served until all the players work together. But how long will that take? How many patients will be diagnosed in the meantime? How many will suffer for years that didn't have to? How many will die that didn't have to if the research was done quicker? We all have a responsibility to work together to reach that goal, without competition, without ego, without any motives other than to save lives. Are you a part of the collaboration or are you part of the division? What is the cost to your patient community to not work together? Are you willing to pay that price to elevate your patient, yourself, your nonprofit, or your corporation? No one will willingly admit that they would do that. But what do your actions say? Are you collaborative? Do you offer different services than others in the field instead of compete with the same services? Do you go to a different donor pool? Do you fund or conduct different research? What exactly do you add to the stack? Because if our motives are pure and our goal what it should be, we should all be blocks in the same stack, working together for the patients. No exceptions. Most organizations start out with the pure of intentions. Either we or someone we love is diagnosed with a rare disease or other illness, and we want to reach out to help others in the same situation. Ways that your work can complement each other. Offer different services to patients. Have one patient registry that you work with together. Respect donors and funding. Never approach another organization's sponsors or donors. Work together to jointly fund research. Join support initiatives, lobby together, have one awareness day and one awareness ribbon or color. Invite and not exclude other organizations from large projects. Never ever criticize another nonprofit organization or any of their leaders. There are much deeper ways to work together if both organizations are inclined to do so. You can create an alliance so that you can more publicly support each other. One organization can be an umbrella organization under the larger organization. The older organization can mentor the newer organization. Or if you're both offering similar services and you don't want to duplicate services and funding, you might want to consider merging the organizations together. By not working together, all organizations are going to pay a very high cost. The loss of funding, the loss of research, the loss of industry relationships, the loss of patient involvement, loss of public reputations, further division, loss of care for patients, and the loss of lives.
When you speak up and say, that's not right, don't do that. guess what? You're that guy. You're not supposed to speak about it. Many people who are professional whisper about these things, know these things are going on, but they don't want to speak up about it. So do you know what happens? Nothing. The bad still keeps happening. Communities still get splintered, organizations get destroyed, reputations get tarnished, people get blacklisted because it is not fun and positive to bring up bad things that happen in a community and try to fix them. Who made that rule? Who said it's not professional to see this is an issue that is hurting patients in rare disease community, in the birth defects community, and all patient communities, and we need to address it and fix it. I'm not the only charity leader who's dealt with any of this. Some of these stories are mine, a lot of these stories are mine, but not all of them are. You know, I have stories that I could tell you that other rare disease leaders have told me, but if I would say that, you would know who it is, and that's not my job to share their stories. I keep pressing them, share your stories. Talk about what's going on. Don't just make vague posts on Facebook because you're frustrated. Be honest and go, all right, supporters, patients, donors, sponsors, researchers, this is what is going on. You know, this is our statement. This is happening. This is not true, or this is true, or whatever you need to say, and address it head on. Hire legal counsel if you need to deal with libel or slander, restraining orders, no contact, or whatever. We should not be ashamed to speak up and defend our work, our charities, and our patients. There's nothing wrong with standing up for what's right, especially when it comes to saving lives. So, if you've learned anything from my tirade for the last hour, please learn that it's okay. It's okay to speak about the unspeakable if it will save lives and communities. It's okay. You're not a bad person just because you voice the truth. Just voice the truth. It's not slander or libel if you say the truth. It's not harmful if you speak up and go, this isn't okay. We need to fix this so that we can focus on research in these patients. That makes you a leader. We should all speak up as much as possible, because once we do that, everyone will start behaving. Nobody wants to get called out for doing any of these things. Nobody wants any of their patients or fellow charity leaders or the researchers to find out that they're behaving in any of these ways. And the longer we keep it in the dark and don't bring it to the light, the more often it's going to happen, because I think they can get away with it, or they don't know any better. We need to educate future leaders and current new leaders on what is ethical and professional and what is not. You know, a lot of things I talked about are just rookie mistakes because people did not know any better, because no one talks about it. So we need to talk about it. Collectively, we need to talk about it. So if any of this resonates with you at all, or if you've never heard any of this and you're just shocked, like, oh my God, I can't believe she's saying this. I can't believe adults would behave this way. You're right, I can't believe it either. So if any of this resonates with you at all, please fill out the survey. Let us know if you've dealt with any of these things or you haven't. That happens. So there's a long list. And if none of those things have happened to you and you're talking about something else, add that too. We need to know all this stuff. It's great information that we can collect and come back and help everyone. So please help us do that. Be brave, be outspoken. Don't be afraid to be truthful. Don't be afraid to stand up for your patients. And don't be afraid to stand up for things that are wrong, that are costing your patients research and lives. So, got this. We can do this. Anything I can do, please let me know. Thank you so much for spending your time with me this afternoon. It has been an honor just getting to share these stories with you and hopefully help others to avoid these pitfalls that my organization has gone through, and to cheer the great organizations on. Keep doing the good work. Stay ethical, stay kind, compassionate, collaborative, work with other organizations so that we can build better communities for all of our patients. Thank you all.
Every organization's end goal should always be to save lives and create better qualities of life for the patients.